Let's get started with the first conversation of the day. It is Valentine's Day. So, first of all, happy Valentine's Day to all the couples out there, both young and old. But more than anything else, this gives us the opportunity to talk about financial planning from the perspective of the couple. Now, more and more couples are having both individuals contribute monetarily. That wasn't always the case, and things are changing, which requires more conversations, not less, about how couples should integrate their financial plans and work for the common good, work together rather than separately. We're joined now by Mrin Agarwal, who is the founder director at FinSafe, to talk a little bit more about this. Thank you so much, Mrin, as always, for taking the time. Now, tell us about conversations that you've had with couples. What are the few things that you've picked up about how couples normally approach financial planning?
Good evening, Alex, and happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. Yes, well, with every couple, it's a different situation. There are couples who manage money together. There are couples where each person manages their money separately. There are cases where one partner is doing the entire thing, and I think that's the majority in India, at least, where the male partner is doing majority of the work related to managing the money. So it's I mean, you see a variety of different things out there, and I think it's slowly changing. Thankfully, I do see women getting more interested in managing money, but I really think that requires a lot more than just the interest.
And it's not a question of capability, Mrin, because the smartest, the most accomplished financial planners that I've spoken to are women, yourself included. Let's talk about who should take the lead, though. If you to talk to a couple and give them advice about their financial planning, where do you start? Who takes the lead in planning their finances?
Well, I think the real start would be for both the partners to tell themselves that this is a very important part of our life, because it is an important life skill, and it is an important part of living your life well, right? So first and foremost, both partners need to tell themselves that they need to be equally involved, and at the same time, for the well-being of their partner, they also need to ensure that their partners are well informed. I think when you're getting into a relationship, especially if you're just starting married life, for example, I think it's important to figure out how you're going to manage it. There's no hard and fast rule in these things. I think the important thing is really to be aware. I think some of the things that need to be sorted out are like, are we going to combine our accounts? What are we going to do with the incomes that are coming in? So, of course, you need to have your separate accounts. I'm not saying that you should have a combined account, but from there, can we put some money into a combined account towards expenses and investments? Is what you really need to decide. Who's going to monitor it? Who's going to plan it? How are we going to monitor it? These are things that the partners need to decide between themselves.
And in fact, this is advice that a lot of people give. I think it's a very sensible point that you're raising, in that you can have your individual salary accounts if you are earning, but have a joint account for investments, and you can have a fixed percentage every month as soon as the salary hits that you transfer into that investments account. But speaking of the person who takes the lead, how important is it for that person to sit down with their partner and identify what they're investing for, to achieve? Because you're ultimately investing to achieve certain goals, right? And it has to therefore be a collaborative process.
Yes, absolutely. And, this is where things actually kind of fall off due to various reasons. Maybe one partner is not interested, one partner may not be interested in sharing the information. It could be due to various reasons. But the other thing that's very important is for the partners to discuss what is the sort of risk that they want to take with the investments, because I have seen this very often where one partner wants to take all the risk and the other partner doesn't want to take risk at all. And I've often had people telling me this, that my partner is taking a lot of risk. So what do I do about it? How do I stop him from stock trading, for example, right? So I think that's another very important thing to be spoken about, that how are we going to approach the common goals, and where are we going to kind of invest for the common goals. And that is why I think it's also important for them to either engage with a financial planner or start reading themselves and acquire a little bit of knowledge themselves.
Fair point. But in terms of, you know, do both people invest separately? Because this is another very common question that people find. The worry is that if problems arise down the road, then either you have one person who's done all the investments themselves. You also have a lot of cases, Mrin, where one partner in the couple in that family, if you're talking about two people, makes all the investments and their entire salary gets deployed, and the other doesn't make any investment. So is that also not healthy? So what's the best way to go about it?
Yeah, so it's very, very easy. Keep it simple. You and your partner are both earning. The common account is basically for expenses, and you do investments in your name, and the partner does investments in the partner's name. Of course, you decide together and where you do it. Now, again, the situation that you said, I've seen this very often where one partner's salary is being used for expenses and EMIs, and the other partner's salary is being used towards investing. That's not a right thing to do at all. You need to ensure that you have investments being done in your name as well, and that you're equally splitting the expenses.
You've said in the points that you've sent me when I asked you certain questions that you should have what is called a money date. Is it as romantic as it sounds, Bryn?
Not at all. In fact, I think it'll be something that no one's going to look forward to. But unfortunately, there are some things in life that are not fun, they're not entertaining, but they're very much required in your life. So I guess you do need to take aside that 1 hour. And, honestly, I think it's just 1 hour a quarter. I don't think it's more than that you need to look at your finances.
And I've also met one particular couple. In this case, the woman, she makes all the investments, and what she does, and because she's in the financial sector, Marin, she sends her husband an Excel sheet at the end of every quarter, just giving him an update as to what is put where, just so that they're both on the same page on an ongoing basis. I guess that's their way of doing it. Everybody has a different way of doing it. There are a few contentious issues to deal with, though, when it comes to the managing of finances for a couple. What does a couple need to bear in mind?
So, of course, the biggest contentious issue is always on spending. And mind you, here I would like to tell you that I actually hear from women more that my husband is or my partner is spending a lot and I'm not happy with it. Okay. So, I think both men and women have this problem. And I think the easy way out is for the couple to decide that, okay, out of our incomes, this much is our discretionary spending, which means this is our fun spending. This is the amount from our incomes that we are keeping aside for spending towards fun. And no questions are going to be asked. You're not going to be judged on where you're spending and how you are basically spending the money. And the key thing to remember is that it is income minus essential expenses minus saving for goals, which is what is then left for spending. So try to follow this, and I'm sure that it'll help in solving this issue of one partner spending. Of course, the other issue that I see a lot is of investment choices. Unfortunately, one is seeing the extreme. So either somebody is wanting to take too much of risk or somebody is not wanting to take risk at all. I'm not really seeing people in the in between balance category where they're saying, okay, we'll take some risk and then the rest of the money will be in safer instruments, right? So I think in these cases, what one should really do is that whatever are the investments that need to be done for financial goals, of course, need to be invested as per the risk and time to horizon, and probably keep some money aside so that the other partner doesn't feel that the person cannot do what they want to with their money. Keep some money aside for exciting investments, a small amount, but be ready to lose that money if it so happens, right? So I think these are two big contentious issues that are there.
It makes a lot of sense. I found what works for me, Mrin, is that my partner and I, we've decided how much we invest every month, and we have fixed expenses. Whatever gets left behind in our own accounts is for us to do with what we will, right? So if I buy a PlayStation or she buys a jewelry, there's no judgment. So I think that works. It may be something that works for everybody who's listening in as well. What about common financial goals? How does that work? Because clearly each person has their own goals, but there are a lot of common goals that, as I said at the start, you have to work towards together.
Yeah. So I think very importantly, as far as emergency cash is concerned, while we say it's 6 months of common expenses, I would still say try to bump up that amount and keep a higher amount in your, invest a higher amount towards emergency cash when you're investing for it. Also, ensure that you take the right amount of life insurance. So many a time insurance is taken in the name of the person who is earning a higher income, but what you must remember is that if either of you pass, then the other partner is going to get impacted because your income is not going to come in. So do not do that, right? Take into account the goals and maybe split it 50-50, and take into account your income and evaluate and estimate what sort of life insurance needs you have. Even on health insurance and also on employer benefits, it's important for you to understand what these benefits are, and understand the impact of not having the health insurance as well. Again, I see the same thing where women are really not concerned about health insurance, and the it's the male partner that is typically focusing on taking the insurance cover. So important to ensure that both the male and the female partner have the right amount of insurance. More importantly, on retirement, and this is where I see the maximum amount of difference of opinion. You need to first talk about where you're going to stay and what are you retiring to, what is the sort of retired life that you want to have. And the other thing is this is going to keep changing over the years, so these are not conversations that you can have at one shot and forget about it. At an early age, maybe you might want to live in the city, and then there comes this phase where you want to go and live in the mountains, and then there comes this phase where you say, no, I think I'm better off in the city as well, right? So it's important to talk about this on a regular basis. And also, again, do not choose these extreme investments of saying that I'll only be in EPF, or I'll just put it in ULIPs or something like that, right? Have a good balanced investment. And finally, on children's education, I think most parents are really underprepared because the children's education goals are much higher than what the parents are really saving for. So keep in mind that a lot of kids want to go abroad right now for studies. That's the trend right now. And so, of course, you need to start saving accordingly and planning accordingly.
Absolutely. All very, very important points that you're raising. That last point in particular, I think it warrants a conversation on its own. Thank you so much, Mrin, for taking the time. Always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.